Any good Mick Foley stories?
Nothing that comes to mind other than being real cheap. He would, I think he says it in one of his books. He would get a Motel 6 just to save bucks. Is probably why he's as wealthy as he is now. Definitely a different guy. Great mind for the business again, but kind of you're thinking, this guy's out there somewhere, and but I never felt uncomfortable with him. Always took care of me. I actually took that top rope clothesline over the top that he does to everybody. Actually, it was a TWA show back in the early days, and I literally never. He held me all the way over, and I literally landed on my feet, and he pulled me to the ground. That's how he didn't seem like he was safe, but he was so safe in the ring and took care of everybody he worked with.
How was Steve Austin in ECW?
Well, he was Paul. Paul told him just go, and he went. And he was great, very easy to deal with. He thought he would think he would have an ego, but he really didn't. I guess from where he came off of with WCW and the way it ended, and where he was hoping to get to, he was a little more humbler, but really easy to work with. Very to the point. Wasn't much of a talker behind the scenes. We're going to do this, and this. In fact, one match I did with him when he put Mikey Whipwreck over, he said, "Ref, I'm going to grab his trunks. He's going to reverse it. He's going to roll me up. You're going to count 1, 2, 3, and that's it." That's the only thing he ever said to me was the schoolboy. And but he was easy to deal with, and it was great having him there. Worked out good for us.
How is the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes?
He is why I'm in the wrestling business. When I first started traveling with Dick, one of the first shows we went to before I started was he also worked with the Maryland Commission, and he was getting booked for the Baltimore arena shows for NWA. And I got down there early, and we were talking about who my favorites are and stuff like that. And he says, I want to do this because of Dusty Rhodes. I love Dusty Rhodes. When I got down there, we got there early, so a lot of the guys I was in the ring with, Tully and Arn and all those guys, just fooling around in the ring. First time ever I traveled to a show like that. And then right before the show, Dick called me over by the curtain and said, "Come here." And I came back behind the curtain. He had Dusty there and introduced him to me. And he said, "That's how you want to be a ref?" I said, "Yeah, all right, kid, you do it." And he gives me a pat on the ass and walks away. I'm like, wow, that's the guy. And yeah, when he came to ECW, actually, I worked after ECW. I also worked with him as well. But ECW, just a great guy, great opportunity, great exposure for us to put somebody like that on the shows, and never changed from meeting him in '86 to when he came in later in ECW, and then later on when Meanie was running shows and with Jasmine and PWU shows in Philly, they brought him in, and just the same guy every time you met him.
It's so funny. I mean, you were a fan. I was a fan. Doesn't matter how long you've been in the business. There are some guys. I got to wrestle Shawn Michaels. I got to wrestle Owen Hart. I got to wrestle huge name guys. But there are some guys, even though you're a pro, even though you've been reffing forever, every time you talk to Dusty Rhodes, there's a little voice in your head saying, "Oh my gosh, this is the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes," right?
Yep, so true.
There's so many guys. I was at Tommy Farrow's store this weekend. Ted DiBiase was there. Ted's been on my podcast. I've met Ted 50 times. Every time I'm around him, I talk his ear off because he's the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase.
Yep, absolutely.
I ask him every question I can think of because he's the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And a little voice in my head saying, "Oh my gosh."
Yep, I always hated the term mark. Just hated it, and I always said if you're not a mark for the business, then you don't belong in the business. I mean, it starts with being a mark. It starts with being a fan, and I'll be a fan till the day they put me 6 feet under. I watch it every week. I'll always watch it, and loved it since I've been 5 years old, sitting there with my grandmother for the first time watching it. It's just, if you're not a fan, then you're not doing it right.
You're right. Any Chris Benoit stories from ECW?
It's that was another tragic story, but what is even crazier about it? Every time he was in ECW, sweetest guy in the world, and the only thing we ever talked about when he was there were our kids. Always had conversations about our kids. He would come up to me and ask me how my kids were. Every time. even when he left and they went to WCW and they showed up to a house show of ours because they were in the area just to come and say hello to everybody. First thing he said to me, "How are the kids?" And then when you hear when that happened and what went down, it's just knocks you right in the stomach. It was unbelievable. But there's a guy who probably just did too much to himself over the years. Probably a big CTE candidate with all the head stuff he would do, and it's just a tragic story.
Any stories being in the ring with Chris?
Well, I was in the ring with him when Sabu's neck got broke. I actually did that match. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. I was the ref for that match, and that was kind of scary. And it was funny, not funny, but it was his reaction was came in all scared. He knew something happened right away, and Paul was at ringside with 911, and they were checking on Sabu, and yeah, he was really scared about it and upset about it when it happened, and. Other than that, yeah, he was really kind of quiet. He really never was in trouble or was doing any stupid shit outside of the ring. Kind of kept to himself, but would talk to you if you came up to him.
What about Nancy?
Oh, what a sweetheart! Absolute sweetheart. As earlier I said, I would avoid things if I could in the ring. I always tried to avoid Sandman's cane spots. I think I took more cane shots from Nancy than I did from him when she was with him. We must have did that for a month where we do the same spot with her, hit me with a cane. So much easier than Sandman doing it. But she was, my God, what a doll. What a super, super sweet woman. Almost you think, what the hell is she doing in this business? Because she was just a sweetheart.